Welcome, friends. So for the new faces in the room, this part of the session was actually designed to debrief the cases that we just discussed in our sexual harassment didactic. But I think some of the things that we're going to bring up here may be helpful to you anyway, regardless of your experiences. So thank you for those of you who have hung out and hung around with us. We are here. I'm Kat Ogle. I'm from George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Laura Walker at Mayo Clinic in Rochester.
Namita Jayaprakash from Henry Ford Health in Detroit.
Moon Lee, Stanford University.
Michael Cole from University of Michigan.
Okay. And then we have Ava Pierce. Awesome. None of us have any disclosures. And we created this debrief space because the last hour that we spent talking about specific examples and specific cases of sexual harassment can be quite emotional and triggering for some individuals. So we wanted to create a specific space in which we could kind of decompress and talk about some of the feelings that might have come out. So I want to read this poem, and I use this before my debrief sessions because I think it's an important way of framing this discussion. So an invitation to a brave space. Together, we will create a brave space. There's no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars. We all have caused wounds in this space. We seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and to continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be one brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. These are our learning objectives. You can find them in your program manual. So I like this framework for really doing any sort of a structured debrief. It's the DARE framework. And so the D is for discovery. And it's really kind of trying to discover the feelings that individuals may have around whatever you're trying to debrief, whether it was a challenging clinical scenario or a challenging conversation around sexual harassment as we just had. The next part of this is really diving in with your whole self when it comes to listening in an active manner. So that means leaning in and not interrupting and engaging with proper body language and giving each other space to speak your mind and to also make sure that you're listening to the perspective of the individual who's speaking. You're not sharing your own perspective, you're trying to hear what their perspective is. The next step is recognizing the emotions that may be felt by that other individual and affirming them and acknowledging them, because these experiences can be very challenging, and that's part of the process, is making sure that we're recognizing that other person's experience. We also want to make sure that we are empathizing with them. Make sure you're not muddying the water with your own experience. If you choose to share your experience after that individual has shared, then that's totally fine, but be very careful not to try to interrupt their experience. Listen to and understand their experience, and then if you wish, you can share your experience. And then if there are next steps to be had, or further sort of education and exploration that needs to be, create some next steps together in a collaborative way. So for those of you who joined the room a little bit late, these questions may kind of fall flat because you don't have an immediate conversation to refer them to. But there are not very many of us. There's really four of us in the audience, and then there's more faculty than there are audience members, but we're happy to have you here. So maybe we get like a group of 2 of you with half of our faculty, and then the other 2 of you with the other half of our faculty. And we'll use these questions to just kind of dive into a challenging scenario. And because we are doing this immediately after the sexual harassment conversation, I would invite you to share any experiences you might have had being a counselor to someone who's experienced sexual harassment, or being someone who was reported to about sexual harassment. If you feel comfortable enough, we are certainly happy to hear your own personal experiences, but you certainly don't have to dive into that. The other thing that I want to say explicitly is this is a space that should be held just for the people in this room, and any conversations that we have in this room, in this space, should remain confidential and in this space and held in secrecy. Okay? So let's get our small groups together. We'll ponder these 3 questions, and then I've got 3 more questions to follow.